We are streaming. It is Friday, November 7th. Please welcome to the stage your host, Mike Derbecker.
I've made a mental note. Do not say greetings and salutations, because I've done that over and over again. But I have to say that I can't say it at least once. So I appreciate your patience in allowing me to do that. So let's make this less formal. How the hell are you as a unit or individually, please? I'm getting good, moderate. No one's complaining too greatly. I'll take that as good. Anybody who's watching this streaming, I trust you are behaving yourself. I mean, I don't want to see you on camera, unless you're that kind of... We'll get into that later, actually. It is November. Congratulations. I've never said that before. I figured I should do it at least once. It is horrible out there, which is not so good. It is actually beautifully warm and cozy and nice in here at CFDA. So, as usual, a couple of housekeeping bits. There is, to my deliberate right, a bar that features assorted drinks, alcoholic and otherwise, that are yours for a jingle of coin. There are some t-shirts that promote this as a wonderful place. You can buy one of those if you want. There are some assorted snacks, including pizza, which is always good. And for anybody who's coming up tonight, and we do have a few, of which I'm always eternally grateful, please keep an eye on the spotlight over there. I'm going to give you around 10 minutes. If it really makes my heart pulse, I may actually go up to 11. Of course, you can bribe me. I take bribes. Bitcoin, not so much, but I'm willing to try it at least once. I'm really happy to be here. I am, if I have to be brutally honest, I'm always happy to be here because this is kind of a niche thing to do, and to find people who show up willingly and have kind of a weird sparkle in their eye to do it, I greatly appreciate. That is about as sentimental as I'm going to be tonight. I have nothing to report other than I did something that I guarantee no one else in this room has ever done. As I look around for someone who's going to contradict me. No one's going to contradict me? It's not that exotic, unfortunately. I was security for the Jays game. Because I have this bizarre resume. Okay, Mike Derbecker, what do you do? Well, I used to be an actor, and I was a filmmaker, and I have a degree in screenwriting, and I've worked for banks, and I was a technical writer. And I was a station manager briefly at Aldershot because there was a strike and they needed somebody. So to add to my weird resume, I worked for Metrolinx. For Saturday, I was one of the crowd control at Union Station, which is not anything I ever thought I would do, but they were really desperate to get extra people in. So I thought, what the hell? I showed up, they gave me a vest, they gave me the latest in technology, which is referred to as a radio. And I walked around Union Station saying, hi, you want to go to Rogers Center? Yeah, you walk down here, you take a left, and you keep walking, it's around a 10-minute walk. Okay, you want to go to the subway, you go down the escalators, straight line, you can't miss it. You want to go to Up Express, you want to go to the airport, you're not going to make your flight. I'm sorry. It's like a 12-minute walk, and you say your train's leaving in 5 minutes. It's not the train that's right there. That will take you to Etobicoke. It's not the train that's down there. That will take you to North York. Maybe call your airline and hope for the best. It was a very weird evening. I did 4 hours, and I went by in around 15 minutes. But hey, I can now add that to my bizarre resume. And there was no bloodshed, and I was not begged to wait for the midnight shift, but there was this distinct sense of people are going to walk out a little disappointed. I don't know why. There was just this kind of low level, we've gotten so far, but it's Toronto. Something has to mess up at the last minute because it's a Toronto thing. You may notice I now live in Hamilton, so I think that's good. That's the weirdest thing that's happened to me this week that I can actually say on a microphone. Anything else is more on a confidential basis. And again, I go back, I'll tell you if you give me the Bitcoin or cash or what have you. But moving on, I have to carry this because my eyesight's lousy and I always forget names. The first person who's going to come up has been here 2 or 3 times before. And he walked in at random once and keeps coming back, and that makes me astonishingly happy. So I'm not going to introduce him with much more than that. Ladies and gentlemen, Frank.
So a little bit of housekeeping as well. Thank you to the people behind the bar for making this possible. And thank you to Mike. This is my 4th time, and he does a great job. He's brilliant. I have not mentioned before that I'm a carpenter, and I do home renovations. And I've been doing it for 44 years. And in the early days, first 15 to 20 years, I went out for lunch every day. I just wanted to get off the job site, and because of that, I knew every all-day breakfast in the city. So wherever we were working, we knew where to go. My crew and I would go for lunch. And this one restaurant that we went to, the waitress would come around and ask us what we wanted, and I would say breakfast special scrambled with bacon. And she would turn to the hole in the wall and yell out, "Scrambled eggs with bacon, scrambled eggs with bacon." Like I could have done that. And one day we were there, and she always was as much coffee as you could drink. Bottomless coffee, I think they call it. And she comes to our table, and she's asking everyone if they would like a coffee. And all of a sudden, she slams the coffee pot down. She rushes over to another table, and she gives someone the Heimlich maneuver. And out comes the sausage, and she doesn't miss a beat. She comes back and starts pouring the coffee for everyone. So I call that place the Choke and Dine. Another time when I was there, my crew pointed out to me that a older woman sitting across the room was staring at me the whole time we were eating our lunch breakfast. And they prodded me to go over and ask her what was going on, so I did. She was a nice older lady, and she said to me, "Sorry, it's just that you remind me of my son." So I said, "Oh yeah, no problem." He must have been a aggressively handsome guy. Shortly after that, finished eating, and she got up to leave, and she said, as she walked slowly out the door, a little bit of a limp, she said, "Goodbye, son." So, of course, I had to say, "Goodbye, Mom." And we had a good laugh. The waitress came over and handed me my bill for $40. And I said, "Well, you know, the breakfast special is $6.95. She said, "Well, your mom said you were paying for her." So I saw out the window that she was getting on one of those small buses for disabled people. And I booted out the door and across the street. And she was just going through the door of the bus. And I reached in and I grabbed her by the leg, and the leg came off. And the door shut on the bus, and the bus scooted away. So I'm standing there with this leg in my hand, and I decide I got to chase the bus. So I'm running down the sidewalk, and I get to the next stop. But this bus is, I think, a special delivery. And it goes, I go a couple of blocks, but it goes right around the corner, disappear, and I start heading back. But the bus comes back. Came back for the leg. And I spoke with the bus driver. He said, "Oh, yeah, it's Rose." And he said, "I let her ride the bus for free because she says I remind her of her son." Anyway, I get back to the restaurant, and wouldn't you know it, the police beat me there. And I go in, and it's not because I stole Rose's leg. It's because the waitress thought I was dining and dashing. So I told them the whole story, smoothed things over, and I just wanted to let you know, if you do see an older woman with a little bit of a limp, she owes me $40. So thank you for listening.
In the name of all things holy, give it up one more time for Frank. And I don't want to be over familiar here, but I was actually given communication by Frank and asked with great grave sincerity just to mention this at the end of his piece, and I haven't actually opened it yet, and I hadn't opened it, but he would like me to add one postscript to what he just read, which is quite simply the moral of the story: don't believe everything you hear. You never know who might be pulling your leg. In case you don't believe me, here it is. I'm sure the cameras will pick it up. That was a very cool story. Thank you. And I love diners, actually. I've never had anyone try to scam me out of a meal at a diner. Although I was at a diner once. This is a completely true story. No one's going to believe me. I watched a guy walking back from the washroom. He walked past a table and knocked it over. I mean, he didn't knock it over entirely. He just jostled enough. Coffee in a cup ran onto the guy who was sitting down onto his lap. And he stood up and screamed and said, "You son of a bitch, what are you doing?" The guy said, "Hey, it's an accident, right?" Goes back to his table. They both cooled down, and the guy who knocked the table walked by around 5 minutes later and said, "Listen, I'm sorry, I've had a lousy day. I shouldn't have done that. Let me buy you breakfast, and I'll make it up to you." And I'm thinking, oh, great, that's such a wonderful thing to do. That's so nice. And the guy sitting at the table said, "I will not have you pay for my dinner because you're a loser." He just said dinner, by the way. He didn't say breakfast. He said dinner. And I realized that the guy at the table kind of smelled like whiskey. And this was around 7:15 in the morning. And the guy standing up was trying to be decent. And he was also not going to get along with this. And there became a really loud, really interesting, profane argument where they were using curse words in full sentences, verb, noun, predicate, across the board. And they were both thrown out. I have no moral to that story other than, I didn't know back that place for a long time. Why don't we move on to the next person? The next person, I believe, is attached on some level, emotionally, physically, logistically. I think you could do this. Yeah, but there was no number 2.
I know, but there could have been.
There could have been. There is number 2. Have I missed a number 2?
Thank you.
Oh, wait a sec. This is why I should be wearing my glasses.
George is the reason I come.
Nah, it's too easy.
That's what she said.
Okay, that's what she said. Before I introduce George, anybody who is here has watched this gentleman speak before. I like this guy. He's never been anything but nice to me. Among other things, I actually smoked a cigar, or a cigar. What is it? You call it a cigarillo?
It's called a joint.
It's a joint. I'm speaking way too coherently for that to have been a joint. He gave me a cigar last time because once a year I smoke a cigar, and he was smoking it, and I said, "My God, I have one of those every so often." I had a Russian girlfriend who really liked them, and they're weird, and they're heavy, and they're weird and sweet, and every 6 months or 2 years or 18 years, they're great. And he gave me one. I just smoked it. Didn't think he'd be here. I was going to smoke it in his presence, and then after smoking it, he showed up. So in karmic terms, I have no idea what the hell that means, other than here's George.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah. How was your Thursday?
Better.
Fuck yeah. Sorry if I don't know if you guys are confused who I'm representing today, because it's maybe the people with challenges, physical challenges, or the veterans, or assholes, or lumberjacks. I don't know. I just put this whole thing together because my wife kicked me out. She goes, "Leave," because I was nagging. My foot hurts. I want to tell you the story what happened to me yesterday morning. I was prepping to go for a shoot in Ottawa, and I was so excited about this project. And I should have known. Because every time I'm happy, life kind of finds the biggest dildo available and just shoves it up my ass. I'm going to be very graphic tonight, so if you're offended, that's on you. Um, I finished packing because my studio is in the basement of my house, and I finished packing, and I was just going back at the top of the stairs to just switch off the light. That's it. Switch off the light to signal that I'm done and now I can rest. It was 3 a.m. And I leaned in maybe not more than a couple of inches, and my body went, oh, I guess we're going down. And I literally tumbled, and I tried, to get a foothold with my left foot, and I ended up landing on it, and I heard it crack, and I banged my head, and I passed out. It's a long story. The most important part is when I made it finally to the top of the stairs, I was out of it, but I was screaming to my wife who's sleeping upstairs. She couldn't hear me. And when she finally heard me, she came in, she dragged me to the kitchen. Now, there's a prehistory to this that you should know. It's a preamble, which is we just bought the house. And so technically, we don't have curtains in the kitchen where my wife dragged me. And 4 a.m. is when my British friend, who and I always joke that my wife is a Latina, that she might kill me one day, I saw him from a weird angle, just coming down and looking to our house and going, like he didn't want to look into, our direction anyway, because he thought my wife had killed me and she's dragging me. Like she's, trying to put me in the dishwasher or something. But, and that's when I realized that his perception is not perspective, because it lacks a lot of data. On the contrary, what my wife did to me is heroic, because because I'm a stubborn idiot, and had she not pulled me and forced me to sit down and then take me to the hospital, I probably couldn't be even walking today, because it was such a big fracture. So we went to the hospital, and the doctor comes in. It was very fast, by the way. And the doctor comes in and tells me what happened. And, I found like it's an opportunity. Take it, And I didn't know this, that in Canada, abuse is not funny, even if you're a man. So I immediately look at the doctor and I go, no, she didn't push me. And the doctor stops. Now he's looking at me to gauge is he serious and then my wife, who's fucking phenomenal, and that's why I love her, without skipping a beat, looks at the doctor and goes, that's an amateur job. I would never, and the doctor was just floored because he didn't know whether it's like she's serious, But she said it with such deadpan and with such emotion that, what, you're insulting me? You think I'll bring him back alive if it was me who pushed him? And it just killed me. But that was the second time I realized what the doctor perceived was not his perspective, because he lacked a lot of data. That's how my wife and I joke together. Like, for example, on the way back, after she had made like 58 jokes and banged my foot 37 times, she looked at me and she goes, I am an asshole. And I love that. Like, she took full ownership. It wasn't like shy. No, she was like, I am an asshole, And, but here's the thing that really struck me, and I'm being dead serious now, because I hear people often complain about the medical system here, and they say, oh, what is this? I had to go wait 16 hours for an x-ray or whatever. Yeah, that is the truth. It took them 10 hours from the moment I came in till the moment I was out. But meanwhile, in the zones that I was, kind of losing consciousness and coming back, I started noticing things. First of all being, the hospital had shitty lighting. It looks like a morgue that has been abandoned for 17 years, and there's at least 16 bodies left in there. Just that type of lighting. It was very eerie. And then I look and I notice there are so many people who are in the hallways, like on stretchers, because there's no room. And then in another, let's call it wake that I had, awaken moment, I saw that there were so many noises happening at once at the hospital. This beeper is going off. This ECG machine is going off. This pressure, blood pressure machine is going off. And it's all sounds that are happening at the same time every second of every hour. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at the nurses and the doctors that are serving me. And at every point of the process, they kept my wife informed. They would tell her, so we're going to take him for an x-ray now because we found a bruise on his waist. He's going to be gone for around 20 minutes. If it's going to take longer, we're going to contact you. Don't worry. And they did that several times because they took me for maybe 4 rounds of x-rays because they kept finding bruises on me because I wasn't speaking well. And then they did a CT scan, and at every step, they would introduce themselves. Hello, my name is Jason. I'm a porter. I'm going to take you to your x-ray. And chatting me up on the way down and talking to me. And I noticed these people, with all the fucked up shit going on around them, are still able to provide care at a level that keeps the patient at bay and then the people with them at bay as well. Like it doesn't like, oh, we're just going to take him. We don't know when he's going to come back. We'll let you know if we find something. Never. It was always done with care, always with the patient in mind and the caretaker in mind. And I started, when I came through and, I was doing better and it was nearing the end, I started thinking about all these puzzle pieces and I thought, nobody wants to fucking come work in a place that looks like a morgue. Like, you couldn't pay me enough to come here work daily without a fucking window and sunlight. You can't pay me enough to hear those noises going on and people moaning and people screaming and people lashing out. You couldn't pay me enough to be walking very narrowly in the hallways with like 16 bags of saline solution, trying to make your way through the patients while smiling and apologizing to people. You can't pay me enough to do any of that. So I started thinking, why are these people here? And I thought it must be something beyond all, like in spite of these things, they are there doing precisely what needs to be done to keep the system going, no matter how tired, how fucked up it is, and how messy it is for them. And I just grew in appreciation for these people, and I made sure to tell everybody on my way out, like, you are appreciated. I really, because what the fuck am I gonna complain about? It took them 10 hours to process. Yeah, because I fucking slipped on my staircase like an idiot. Now they have to not tend to somebody else who's going through something more major because I believe my time is so important, I should have been out of here already. Fuck me. And fuck anybody who complains. These guys are sincerely angels because there is no other reason to do this job unless you're a fucking angel. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. They were just doing their job. Like, they didn't leave a stone unturned. They would tell me, are you okay? Are you sure you can leave now? Please don't forget your medicine. Please do this. Please do that. Please take care of yourself. We're going to see you in 3 weeks again to judge if you need a surgery. Like, I was blown away. And for everybody who fucking complains about the medical system, yes, it's not perfect. I agree. But also, that's your perception. Because you gain the perspective when you fucking walk into that place and you see how hard they're fucking working. And that's the perspective I gained today, and I'm so grateful for it. Thank you, guys.
Can we give him another hand of applause? Firstly, a good story, and secondly, for showing up. George, 3 things. Firstly, sorry you hurt yourself. Secondly, that is a beautiful story. Anyone who's... I can relate to that. I dealt with a lot of hospitals. I should turn my alarm off. Excuse me. Model of efficiency. Model meaning non-working, small replica of the original. I like that story because I've dealt with a lot of weird last-minute health stuff, and as awful as it is, anybody who actually took care of, like, for example, my son developed kind of a variation of tonsillitis, but it was nastier. He was swelling in his throat, and he may have choked to death. We didn't get him to McMaster Hospital quickly, and they took him in quickly, and they saved his life. So I can understand this idea of sitting there thinking, I'm so bored, this takes 10 hours, and also realizing it's working. That's hard to put into words. You did that. So thank you for doing that. And also, you're coming to my event. Thank you for coming out and doing this again, because I can't think of a lot of people who's just gone through what you went through, who didn't just think, you know what, I'm going to take 2 Percocet and go to bed. I really appreciate you're here, and it was a great story. One more time, please. George. I was introducing Amy earlier, and I was wrong. But guess what? This time I'm right. I am vindicated, ladies and gentlemen. Amy.
So I really like that story. What I like the most about George is that he's always so positive, and he just like smashed up his leg and comes here firstly, and then goes on about how great everything is when really he spent 10 hours in the fucking hospital. You're amazing, George. You're amazing, and you always look for the, like, when I leave, so talking to my friend, and I said to her, she goes, what do you go there for? And I go, you know what? It's just like this feeling that I get when people talk, and when I talk, I feel like this vulnerability, and also I feel it when other people are talking, like this surge, like this, I can't even explain it. I go, do you know The Moth? And she's like, no, I don't even know what The Moth is. I go, well, you gotta listen to The Moth. It's like The Moth in Hamilton. And does anybody here know what The Moth is? Yeah. It's like The Moth, right? And it's people telling their stories, and there's something, I don't know, like it just feels so good. And when George, and I said that quite seriously, that I come for George, but George, whenever George speaks, I feel really good, like inside, like a warm fuzzy, and like a big inside blanket. Anyway, today I'm going to read a story, a very, very short story that I wrote a long time ago for a short contest that I was interested in. My father was in the Vietnam War, and so I'm insanely interested in the Vietnam War. One of the reasons why is because he would never talk about it. He would never, ever, we would ask him questions. He said, I don't want to talk about it, I don't want to talk about it. And it turns out my father had like a really weird job. He wanted to be a fighter pilot, and they do go through all this testing, and he passed this, he passed that. And then it came to the final testing where they put you in like a sort of a contraption, and they spin you around over and over again. And if you can't handle it, like if you come out and you're all dizzy and you fall down and you throw up, and so you're out. So my dad was out. And this was devastating to him because he made it through all the ranks, and then the final thing, he didn't make it. So he had this job, and I feel like it really fucked him up because he had to go and take pictures before bombing and then after bombing. He was the aerial photographer for the bombing. And to this day, like my dad's a mess, right? So one of the things that we always knew is if my dad was sleeping, you couldn't wake him up because he would like punch you in the face, right? So if I'm like, hey, Dad, I jump on him, he's on the couch, I would get slugged in the face. Like you learn once and you don't do it again, but a lot of things like that. Like he spoke so quickly. So I always became very fascinated with things about the Vietnam War because I knew my dad was like that, and he went, and he was also kind of a bit fucked up, right? So if I could read anything about it, I did. And I read one time that the kids that were in Vietnam that were children of the soldiers and the Vietnamese women that were there were called children of the dust. And because they basically left and went back to the United States and just left all these children. A lot of them ended up going to orphanages because people did not like the mixed children. They were just considered dirty. And it was not a good thing. And some of the mothers kept them, but some of them did not. There was a certain year, and I don't know when, that they decided to accept them all back to the United States, and they had some sort of amnesty, and a bunch of them did come. So this is my extremely short story about that. It's basically about a guy that came back, and he was looking for his dad, sort of. Dear Mr. Barlow, I found your name in my mother's journals. She always said she didn't know who you were. It took her death to learn the truth. I know she never told you about me. I spent my life as a child of dust, the same name given to Horace's children, but now, 43 years later, warmth replaces scars. Her diaries overflow with poetry. I translated one. 10,000 miles away, yet your round eyes look up at me. Same moon glows in our night skies. Same sun warms our skin. Still remember your hand in mine. Still hear your laugh in the quiet of my day. I never knew my mother wrote poetry. Did you? I've lived in Rochester since 1991, looked in every white man's face for signs. But Rochester and Dallas feel as far away as Vietnam and America. I thought you should know. Tan. That's it.
I want to say something different than just one more time for Amy, but I think it says it best. Please. That was beautiful. Another hand of applause if you would. One of the reasons I like this as event is that someone will always come up with something I could not possibly see coming, and, quote, my father was in Vietnam, unquote, is pretty high in that list. That's fascinating. If you want to come back and tell more stories about what you did, or if he ever did tell you some things, and the circumstance in which he did, please do. That was wonderful and unexpected. And on the topic of wonderful and unexpected, the next performer is someone named Brandy, who I've seen once, and it was one hell of an impression. Yeah. I have no introduction because I have a feeling she will make herself known. Brandy. Do I have to ask for another hand of applause? Just two very brief things. Number one, no notes whatsoever. That was cool. And secondly, did I hear it properly? Was that rainbow dildo or Rambo dildo?
I mean, either would have been embarrassing.
Because I'm picturing something made out of latex in a rainbow. Okay, that's good. Because I like Stallone in Intimate Places. Hey, I'm not judging. And rainbow, I went to Baptist Sunday school. My first thought was red and yellow and pink and green, purple and orange. So many thoughts came out of that. That was wonderfully read. Thank you for doing it. We have someone else who is the founder of this establishment and is a philosopher first and foremost. Everybody here has seen him, and if you're streaming and you haven't seen him, sit down, get a cup of tea, coffee, the drink of your choice. I am always grateful because he lets me do this event, among other things, and that's all I got to say. Jake.
Thanks, everyone. We are now licensed, so I'm drinking a tequila drink, which should help me. Let's see. Lately, I've been talking a lot about the conception of the self and myself. And a story just came to me the other day when we were just chatting with people about that subject, and it kind of highlights, in many ways, how I think about it. It wasn't really until my 40s that I discovered that I had a body, I guess, in a way, you could say, in a very profound way. You know, I happen to be one of those hyper-rational kids that were all about ideas. The body was just something that gave you error signals that you ignored. That's what it felt like. It's like you just have to overcome emotions and feelings and pain and all that and just, you know, move through it. But probably into my 40s, I started to realize that regardless of what my mind thought, my body felt differently. And I saw an example of this in somebody else in a kind of an extreme version of it. I was leaving a yoga class in the Junction. This was back in, I guess, you know, maybe 15 years ago or so. And that part of the Junction was a little unsafe in a park where, you know, junkies hung out. But, you know, I would walk home through it. I found it interesting near the rail line. And I saw this guy coming towards me in the dark, and we were walking on the sidewalk, and I'm on the right, and he's coming on his right. And there was just something off about him. And he came, as he got closer to me, I just felt something was off, and he kind of moved towards me and like bumped into me as I walked past, while also saying, asshole, you know, like clearly ran into me. And, you know, my instincts, probably not a good idea, but I turned around, you know, like, what the fuck are you talking about, that kind of thing. And he came back again with a really odd energy. It's like kind of vibrating, you know, it's like, are we going to fight? Like, do you want to fight me? Are we going to fight? That kind of, you know, approach. And so, no, I'm not going to fight you. And he pushed me, but I didn't push back because I felt it didn't seem like he really wanted to fight me, but he wanted to fight me. So oddly, it turned into a conversation. And what he said to me was that he basically really hadn't talked to anybody in 2 years. He really hadn't, what I extrapolated from that is he really hadn't touched anybody in a couple of years. He said that he rarely left his house or wherever he lived, and the only people he came into contact with were the police, who he was convinced were trying to kill him. the impression I got, and yoga, it's ironic I was coming from yoga, and that's kind of one of the practices that helped me discover the body in some sense. And I realized that, I'm a collection of systems. I'm a collection of body systems. I'm a collection of mind systems. It's all this series of storms that come together that make up me. And sometimes what your mind systems are doing and what your body systems are doing are not in accord with each other. I think this is what I notice, is that probably most of us are like that. And in fact, our current modern world, as however you want to describe it, encourages that form of comportment to the world and to yourself, to be hyperfixated on ideas and images, constructs. Hey there, welcome. It's okay, it's such a small place, it's hard to be quiet. Welcome. So basically what I got out of that experience was that it seemed to me that his mind had reconciled a life of being alone and not being near people or talking to people or touching people, but his body had other ideas. His body is looking for an opportunity to touch, to be intimate. And sometimes it's really dysfunctional because that intimacy can play out in many different ways. And sometimes violence is that form of intimacy. And it's probably the easiest one to get. Whether he's thinking about it or not, it seems like his body is just going out and looking for somebody to touch. And then, he doesn't really want to do it. His mind is scared, but he feels compelled to just fight, touch, do something. Have some interaction. Yeah, over the years, that's an extreme version of it, but, and only because, I had a mother who was very loving and affectionate and touching, even though I wasn't like that, but I think I was given that. And then later on in life, I had a girlfriend, and she had a kitty cat that I would touch. There was always opportunity to do that, but if that fellow there for 2 years, he hasn't really been close to anybody, it seems like an interesting place to be at. And it's not really that surprising that the body would just find a way to do it. And what I found, as I said, yoga helped, psychedelics helped, but it was kind of like a conversation between the mind systems and the body systems, so that they're at peace with each other in some sense. One side knows what the other's doing. It's metaphoric, but even by talking in explicit terms with words and symbols and ideas, it still works. It's weird, but it still works. Having conversations between parts of yourself. Something that's really helped me. Anyway, I never know how to end these things, but I just wanted to get that out there. Touch somebody. Thank you.
Jake, one more time. You are a braver man than I am, sir. I've had numerous people give me weird looks on the street, and rarely have I stopped and actually had a conversation with them. So you need a special mindset to do that, and that's absolutely fascinating. This thing is shaking more than I want it to. That's why I'm trying to convince it to have the integrity that it requires for this exercise. Next person who's coming up has come in from Toronto at my request, and I've known him for a very long time, and I'm always delighted to end up on a stage with him. And this isn't fake, by the way. We have ended up on the same stage in Toronto on a few occasions. I've always, for a long time, I wanted to actually be in the same venue, and it's finally happened, and it's becoming repetitive, and I like that. I have no idea what's on his mind today. It will be interesting, I promise you that. It's Brian Terrio.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Brian. I'm an addict. But Brian, as part of the 12-step program, you have to admit what kind of an addict you are. Well, I'm an everything kind of addict. I am, shall we say, I have an addictive personality. I find something that I like, I do it to excess. I found this out when I was very young. It was walking to school one day. I had this scarf. It was brand new. It was plaid. I really liked it. I would rub it on my neck as I'm walking to school. It wasn't long before this thing created a horrible rash on the back of my neck. But you know what? A week later, I'm still rubbing it on the back of my neck. One of the teachers at school noticed, and they got kind of upset. They thought that there was something going on. They brought it up to my parents. My parents went, what is this? They had to take the scarf away from me because I would just keep doing it. Later on, there was this invention. It was by a company called Vicks. And Vicks had this thing they called the inhaler. You'd unscrew it, stick it in your nose, and snort. What it did is it cleared out your sinuses. Certain times of the year, this was a big problem for me. My sinuses would close right up, make it very difficult for me to concentrate. But this Vicks thing, awesome. Loved it. And of course, I loved it too much. So I'd be using it in class like 4 or 5 times. And the teacher got very suspicious of this thing. What is this? I've never seen this before. No kid other than him uses it. What could possibly be going on? They had to take that away from me. Now, I'm not the only one in my family that has this particular kind of issue with substances. My dad, for instance, had it. I remember summers, we would work in his shop. My dad owned a small business. And usually there was not a lot of interaction between us and him during the day. But at the end of the day, he would sit down with an old sign writer who worked in the shop, and they would start toasting each other's health. I used to watch my dad empty a full 40-ounce bottle himself. And then we'd all pile into the car and he'd drive us home. Yeah, I remember a few times the car horns, truck horns, swerving towards the ditch. And I ended up finding myself in the same position later on, wondering, where did I get these bad habits from? Well, one night, this was 81, 82, it was the first year that Mothers Against Drunk Driving came out. They had the big program where they're going to inform everybody not to drink and drive. Now, I think anybody on the planet knew that drinking and driving was a dangerous thing and kind of stupid. But they were putting their foot down, and they managed to coerce the Metropolitan Toronto Police Force into assisting them. So I was driving into the city that night. Pick up my girlfriend. We were going to go downtown, pick up a buddy. Then we're going to go out. We're going to start drinking. And then we're going to go to a club. And then I'll drop off Ron, and then we'll go home. So, driving into the city, about 4 blocks away from my girlfriend's house, get stopped by Ride. This was 6 o'clock at night. I go, okay, what's all this about? Well, sir, we're just here to, dissuade you from going out drinking and driving. I said, well, I haven't been drinking. I mean, I'm just coming into the city right now. Well, we understand that, sir. But we want you to be aware that drinking and driving is a bad thing. Well, thank you very much, officer. That's helpful. He gives me this little tote bag, and it's got like stickers and stuff in it. Oh, okay, thank you. Put it in the back seat. Drive over, pick up my girlfriend. She's already half cut, but she pours into the car, goes, let's pick up something on the way there. So, oh, okay. Where do you want to go? She told me. So I get in the car and start driving. So this is before we're going to meet my buddy. We get stopped again. Another ride. Good evening, sir. We're just here to make sure that... Yeah, I heard this all from the last officer that pulled me over like 20 minutes ago. Yeah. Okay, well, I understand that, sir, but just want to remind you... So I went through the whole spiel again. Thank you very much, officer. I appreciate it. He gives me the little bag. I'm like, oh, thank you very much. Throw it in the back seat. So I turn to my girlfriend and I say, you know, I'm not sure I'm going to be drinking tonight. This seems to be a bad omen right here. She goes, don't worry about it. So we picked it up. Yeah, she was a special piece of work. Yeah. Anyways, we went, we got the stuff, and then we went over to my buddy's house, and we tell him the story. I'm like, this 2 times in one night, this is crazy. And he goes, man, you're like cursed. I don't think you should do it. And then about halfway through, he goes, oh, wait a minute. Maybe you're not cursed. Maybe this is it, man. You're like lightning struck you twice. It's not going to be a problem, man. You don't have to worry about anything. And I'm thinking, okay, what's he up to? And he just wants me to go pick up some more drugs for him. I was like, oh, yeah, okay. And I can't do that if I'm drunk, right? Yeah, okay, whatever. I'll go pick up some more drugs for you. So we get in the car, turn the corner at the lights, and there's another fucking ride program right there. And the cop's like, oh, pulls me. Well, I was starting to take this personal, you know? So the thing was, we were all punks. So we were all dressed in leather. We were all optically annoying, and always the subject of attention whenever a police officer is in the vicinity. But I pulled over, I rolled down the window, and I said to the guy who was walking up to the vehicle, you know, who's got the stride, got his cop hands ready for whatever's gonna happen. And I said, what the fuck are you guys doing? This is like the 3rd fucking time I got pulled over tonight. He goes, ooh, well, sorry about it. Am I being profiled here? What the fuck's the story? And take it easy, sir. It's just I know it's the first night of ride. Yeah, I get it. So he comes out and comes over to the car and he goes, oh, I'm sorry. And then I said, I grabbed the bags from the back seat and I go, and he goes, oh, well, you want another one? I said, yes, I want another one. I take the thing from him. He goes, oh, sorry to bother you. Have a good night. So, okay, throw it in the back seat. Driving away, and my buddy's laughing. Oh, if he knew what we had in the car. Yeah, shut up. I am not drinking or doing anything tonight. Yeah, okay. We drive over. We hang out at the club for a while. And this is when I realized that this is a really fucking boring group of people that I'm with. They're all shit-faced. And the conversation kind of goes, and disappears into nothing. I'm like, really? Is this what we do all the time? This is crazy. All right, so sitting there, When's the band finish? Okay, band's finished. Hey, everybody, let's go. Pile into the car, right around the corner. What do we find? A ride. They pull me over. Cop comes over. I'm like, I've had enough. Like, everybody else is they're all laughing hysterically, maniacally. And I'm just sitting there holding on to the steering wheel. Cop comes over. Excuse me, sir. I'm not sure that you're aware, but there's a mother against drunk driving. And I grab the three things, and I hold them up. Yes, I'm quite aware, officer. Thank you very much. Well, I hope you haven't been drinking. 1, 2, 3. 3 of these. I've had 3 warnings tonight, officer. I was not drinking tonight. And they're just laughing their asses off. The cop goes, okay. I'll take a bag, though, for the next time I get pulled over. The officer goes, okay. Gives me a number. Throw it in the back seat. Well, I am super pissed off now, and they are super laughing at me. So I drop off my buddy. Go. I don't want to hear about it anymore. He's just laughing his balls off. And, of course, my girlfriend's doing the same. Well, she doesn't have balls, but it doesn't matter. We get in the car, we drive, and guess what? Another fucking ride program. You'd swear, how many of these things did they have in the fucking city that night? It was insane. I get pulled over by and none of these cops are the same cops. They don't know me. They don't know nothing. They're just pulling me over. So I pull over again, and she's just pissing herself laughing. Just absolutely over the top. Fine. Officer comes to the window. I said, give me the bag. Give me the bag. And the cop goes, well, I'm not, what do you mean? I said, give me the bag. He goes, what do you mean, this? I said, yes. How do you know about that? Look at the back seat. Cop looks real, shines a little flashlight back there. Looks like you've been busy tonight. Yeah, that's hilarious. Thank you, officer. Well, you have a good night, and remember, don't drink and drive. Yeah, I got that message. So I drive home, and I drop her off. And well, actually, we're sitting in front of her house. I'm like, you know what? I am going to think twice about drinking and driving. And she goes, yeah, right. And laughs again, leaves. And after that, I did. I actually stopped drinking and driving. It was frustrating, but I would only have like 1 beer a night. And if we had a meal, I would have 2. But that's it. That's all I would have. I wouldn't go to my usual poison of double vodkas. I wouldn't do a shitload of acid or take a whole bunch of beans. I wouldn't do anything if I was going to be driving. And I think that one night, with all those stops, probably ended up saving my life. So, I'm not sure you're aware of this, but don't drink and drive.
Don't drink and drive, and give him one more hand of applause. That verged into a life lesson, but not in a horrible kind of way. That's fascinating. I got nothing to say. That was just incredible. And you are a patient soul. What did you do with all those bags, by the way?
I don't know. You'd think it'd be something I'd keep as a trophy.
Just a...
I was just fucked up enough
These are the 6 times, the 6 pieces of evidence from that incredible evening. There's,
Oh, you know what? I think my girlfriend took it.
is she the one who called you about the record? Sorry, was it her friend?
Her best friend called me about the record.
Because his story actually segued from something we were talking about outside, which I won't get into, but nothing ever goes away. That's kind of the point. That's fascinating. And that beats my story. I got pulled over for a ride check once, and the cop hit me. That is a true story. It was a really icy night. I just had a really good evening. I was driving back I was on the Gardiner in Toronto, and it was icy, and I'm trying to drive very carefully in I was like 20 years old. I'm in a Ford Taurus. And I see the lights behind me, and I'm thinking, okay. I'm going to pull over as carefully as humanly possible. 80K, 60, 40, 20, 10. I pull over to the shoulder. I have not skidded. I was not speeding. I had not been drinking. I'm thinking, I've done it. I have done everything right. I don't have to worry. All of a sudden, boom! I go ahead like 5 or 10 feet. And because it's so icy, the cop couldn't stop in time. He hit me. Now, it was so icy that I just kind of skidded forward. It didn't damage the car, but I did jump out of the car and looked at the bumper, and the guy who was driving was out. His partner is sitting in the front seat laughing his ass off. And the cop looks at me and goes, "Hi, can I have your license and registration?" I said, "Yeah, can I have your license and registration?" And he gave it to me. And he went to the car, and he came back a minute later. He said, we actually heard that there was a car like yours that was involved in a robbery, but obviously it's not you, and I don't think there's damage, but you have my information, and if you want to talk to my staff sergeant, that's okay. And I realized I have one chance in my life to do this, only once. I looked at him and went, okay, you know what? I'm going to let it go this time. But it's really, it's not just about you getting home safe, it's about everybody getting home safe, isn't it? And the cop is like, yeah, right. Are you done? Just gave him his wallet back and said, thank you, and hey, drive safely tonight. Your story's better. We have another person. And the other person, this is a man who needs no introduction, obviously. You just applauded him with an intro. You know who it is? Then he gets no introduction. Dexter, who's patient with me and lets me do this, here he is. Dexter.
Okay. I want to tell this story that is more like an experience that just happened out of the blue. I used to live in a really interesting community filled with eclectic artists in Toronto, in Liberty Village. Jake's been there. Renovated industrial spaces, and each unit was some person's creative canvas to paint with whatever their personality was. And my friends at the time, one of them, her name is Cheryl, she loved canoes. Canoes got us everywhere. I'm talking, we went into the exhibition for free simply because we were carrying a canoe. We'd canoe around Ontario Place, and our friend Dave, he also was a neighbor. It's a short story, so I'm trying to expand it. So usually I'm doing the opposite. He was great. He was was very snarky, and he just said things, and he was unapologetic, and was moody, and you appreciated just how he was. Like he'd be like, "How are you, Dexter?" I'm like, "Great. How are you, Dave?" He's like, "I'm fine. If it wasn't for this pasta that I fucked up," I'm like. And there'd be a bunch of people there. He's a drummer. I think drummers have that kind of, no holds barred attitude. Anyway, it has nothing to do with the story. The story is, one day, Cheryl gets a bright idea of going canoeing at night on the harbor front. And she goes, you guys want to come? I'm like, yeah, let's do this. Let's go. Where do you want to go? I don't know. Maybe we just head over to Center Island. And we're like, okay, where are we going to plop this canoe? And we'd fasten this canoe onto a bike with the trailer, and we just ride along, get to Harborfront, put it in the water. And she said, let's just aim for Center Island. And this is July at night. I don't know, 8 o'clock. Okay? And you can imagine the gardener just right there. And we put this thing, we hop in, and then we slowly are enjoying this calm evening, canoeing at night, going, wow, this is really nice. And we pass the breaker walls, and it's a nice, clear, moonlit night. So everything's peaceful, but it's the city. So there's this great contrast with the canoe and the city. And then we notice in the distance there's this boat. We're like, oh, there's a boat there. Is it coming towards us? And we're canoeing. I'm like, yeah, I think it is. And then all of a sudden you see lights. And they're shining lights at us. And there's a megaphone. But we can't make out what they're saying. And they're heading towards us. And we're in our conversation going, okay, they can't be talking to us. Or they just want to see us, make sure we're here, and avoid us somehow. No, they're coming straight towards us. And then soon enough, you realize, oh, it's a police boat. And there's this cop leaning on the edge. He's like, guys, go back, go back. And all three of us in this canoe, we're going, what the, this is a beautiful night. What is going on here? And he gets maybe about 10 feet in front of us. All of a sudden, fireworks just boom, boom. You've seen city fireworks, right, that launch because of safety at a distance from the shore. There was no indication. There wasn't Canada Day. There was no crowd gathering around. They must have just been testing fireworks. But when those fireworks started going off, so super close, like something you put into IMAX, it was incredible because all of us, the cops on the boat, all three of us in the canoe, we just froze. And like deer in headlights, looking at this fireworks experience happening right above our heads. Well, and that barge was maybe, I don't know, 100 meters away. And that's it. I've never told that story. But that is the equivalent of drugs, but no drugs. Thank you for listening. Mike, come back up.
Dexter Eco. Short and perfect. You walked away from that without getting singed in every inch of your body. That's incredible, man. You want a confession?
Yes, please.
It's not going to be that juicy, I'm afraid. Watch myself perform here, and I realize I tend to slouch because the microphone's not high enough. I told you it was not a juicy confession. It was just why I always come out here and suddenly mess around with the microphone, because I'm sure that everybody here has been thinking, why does Michael do that? It's incredibly important we find out. Second confession, holding something. It's got to be something alcoholic, which is weird because I don't actually drink that much, but when you're on stage, channel something. So, for once, I'm actually the last performer tonight, and I got to confess something else. I haven't told this story before. I've told half of it. My line has always been, I will tell stories about stuff I can't forget, and whether that's good or bad, it's just something that sticks in your mind. This has to begin with, of all things, a line off the movie Aliens. Everybody's seen it, right? Has anybody seen it? stay frosty. Michael Bean as Corporal Hicks, one of the last survivors, on this planet, and they're surrounded by aliens, and everyone they're going to die. He's pretty sure, and he's telling his other Marines, "Okay, I know it's heavy, but you got to stay frosty." For some reason, that line stuck in my head while all of this was happening, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the topic. And the response to what happened to me has nothing to do with the topic, but everything swirls together. Here's the short story. I was in a literature class in university. I was thus an undergrad trying to write short stories, so don't worry, I'm not going to read them. It would be about as good as you think they'd be. And I was trying to write about something that was traumatic to me. A friend of mine killed herself in university. It's in high school. And I was trying to write about it, and I was trying to write about it as frosty as humanly possible. Because I didn't want to be accused of being sentimental or being earnest. I'd already done that. I mean, I was in third year university. I realized I've already written bad stuff about this. It's something that I can't forget for reasons I'd rather not get into right now, simply because it will take too long. But I'm trying to write something, and I'm remembering stay frosty. Maybe I could do this as reportage. Maybe if I write out everything that upset me in black and white as coldly as possible, at worst, I'm going to write something that someone's going to read and go, "Hey, it's boring, I don't care, With all due respect, it's not worth the time." Or I might have an epiphany. I may actually write something and think, okay, now I know why this sticks in my head of all things. And here's the other part that doesn't relate. It's a Dylan Thomas poem. I'd been reading a lot of poetry. He wrote a piece called "The Refusal to Mourn the Death of a Child by Fire in London." That has nothing to do with my friend who killed herself, or nothing to do with me in third year university. But there was a line in that about, "I will not murder the mankind for her going with a grave truth, nor blaspheme down the stations of the breath with any further elegy of innocence and youth." In short, don't make something glossy. Just write what happened. I'm trying to do this. I'm 21 years old. I'm in a writing class that is supposed to be one of those safe spaces. Let's say that in quotes, safe space. And if someone tells me that's lousy, I can live with that. If someone tells me you didn't write it well, it's boring, it's too long, or what have you, I can deal with all that. I wrote about finding out about her death and the events that went up to the funeral, and I couldn't write anymore, but I thought if I could document this, I might be able to understand what happened and understand my response. I write the story, I read the story, it takes around 5 minutes, and it's in a class with 7 or 8 people who have also taken 7 or 8 minutes to read their stories, and the response is, "Wow, okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm sorry that happened to you." There's one person in the class who has an odd response. She says, "Oh, I don't get that part about her with the wrists." Because this girl had been anorexic at one point, and in the story I said, before she killed herself, I'd seen her a few days before, and I noticed that her wrists were scrawny again. And I don't remember when they weren't scrawny. When I met her, they weren't, but there's something happened between that point and then, and I could no longer remember when she didn't look anorexic and drawn. And this woman in the class said, I can't buy that. And I said, "Okay, I'm sorry. Is it not written properly?" She said, "No, I don't think it happened." "Okay. Are you saying that I made it up?" No, I don't think you made it up, Michael. I think it didn't happen, but you still wrote it." Yeah. I said, "Okay, you can't do that. I mean, if you think I've made it up for the sake of effect." No, I don't think it was effective at all. I don't think it happened. And I'm not offended by this, but I'm confused. And I said, what if I'd written that she had a green sweater with floppy sleeves? Would you have fixated on that? And she said, "No, because I don't care about sleeves, but I care about the fact that you think she was scrawny." She was anorexic. I mean, that's part of the reason she killed herself. And you can believe it. Accuse me of lying. I mean, just tell me I made it up. I don't think you made it up. I think it didn't happen. What are you telling me? I'm already really precarious. I am writing over a grave. That's not frosty on my part. The professor, his last name was Joyce. Yes, no relation to James Joyce, but his last name was Joyce. He kind of stepped in and he separated us and he said, Catherine, you really can't say that, and Michael, maybe you should calm down. I had gone in trying to be cold about this and I had failed. So I'm not in the best of moods. Around a day later, I am talking with Professor Joyce and he's very flat. I like him. He's very flat. He's very unemotional. He is frosty. And he's saying, okay, Michael, your story, you could cut it in half, and I might get your point, but I think it was too long. I mean, you're obviously, this means something to you, and it's a little too long, but I'm sorry about your friend, but you can't take this too seriously. I mean, there's no way out of this situation. She killed herself. You can't get out of that. You shouldn't write about it so much. Do it once and get out of your system. And he's not being mean. He's not being cynical. He was being very straightforward. I'm thinking, okay, Frosty. I like Frosty. I can deal with this. But he drops a weird anecdote, and he said, now, I went to the University of Calgary with somebody who would never shut up about the fact that they were convinced they had to kill themselves. I mean, that was sort of his thing. He'd have a few too many drinks, and he'd say that. And eventually his girlfriend said, you know what you should do? Don't do what you're saying. I mean, you're saying you want to go in the woods and take a bottle of pills and then stare at the sky. Don't do that, because some deer is going to find you, or some wolf is going to find you and eat you, and they're going to die. If you have to do this, do it in a bathtub, cut your wrists, don't bother anybody. Two things. Number one, that's kind of cold. And number two, I'd heard that. Anybody in this audience, is that a thing? Is it a line from a movie? Is it some throwaway comment from a novel I didn't read? I have actually gone online to try to find that type of a reference, and I can't find it. But even at the time, I thought, that's fake. That whole story is fake. It struck me as being incorrect. Like it's something, it's like an urban myth. There was a guy begging for change at Yonge and Bloor, and then he got into a limo at the end of the day. It's like one of those stories that can't actually happen. But he didn't tell me this to be mean. He was telling me this because he believed it, and fine, okay, I can deal with that. I thanked him for his advice. I put the story away, and I realized this is over. None of this would matter now. None of this would possibly matter in the year 2025 to me, except there was an unfortunate circumstance at the same time. I'm in university. If anybody watching this is careful enough to figure out how old I am and where I probably went to university, you might know the person I'm talking about, but I don't want to use their name. Canadian poet. He was very famous. He was part of the faculty. I never met the dude. I'd read his stuff. And I was supposed to go to a reading of his the week after my little contretemps in that writing workshop. I don't want to use his name. What I can tell you is that he died suddenly, around 3 days after I talked to Professor Joyce. And this poet, if you figure out who he is and look up his obituary, it simply says he died suddenly. There's no listing of the cause of death. I don't know what killed him. But what I know is that in the faculty and among the student body and among the professors at the time, it was assumed that this guy had killed himself. Want to know my response? It was, oh, that's terrible. Full stop. I had never met him. I didn't take a class with him. I'd read his poems. That's it. That's my only response to it. And I heard about this on a Monday. Because, and this was in the primitive times, before they can say that a class is canceled via email or via text, I'd gotten to school, found out about this death, and found out there's going to be a memorial at this funeral home in North Toronto, and then there's going to be a funeral at 5 o'clock. My class with Professor Joyce was canceled. Joyce and this dude were very close friends. And I'm thinking, okay, that's awful, but I'll go to class. We've been told that we can pick up a reading list. Hard copy, piece of paper, you have to walk in, you pick up the list, you walk out of the room. I have no response to any of this other than I'm going to get my reading list. And I walk into the classroom. Professor Joyce is over there talking to a few people. I hear him saying, I know it's been a very big shock for all of us. No one could have possibly expected this, and so on. And 2 or 3 people walk in, they get their papers, they walk out. I look at Joyce, I see him for a second, I walk to the desk, I pick up my piece of paper, I'm about to leave, and he says, "Why are you here?" shocking the people he's talking to and shocking me. And I look at him, and a little more controlled, he says, "Why are you here now?" And I realize that he probably thinks I'm going to give him some variation of, "I told you so," in terms of how one responds to a suicide. Or that maybe I am there to approach him and pat his wrist gently and say, "I know how you feel. I'm not doing this. I don't want to be within 50 feet of this son of a bitch. Firstly, I don't want to be dragged into whatever he is going through. Secondly, I have absolutely no idea how he feels. I know how I felt. I do not know how he feels. I know what I see. I am seeing panic, I am seeing anger and confusion and incredibly thick sadness. But it's none of my business. I didn't know the deceased, and I don't know Joyce other than the fact that he may or may not give me a decent mark. And I am astonishingly pissed off because I'm being dragged into whatever nightmare is happening. I keep thinking, was I the 18th person there? He was going to be pissed off at number 18, no matter who it was, or does he have some connection to me? And I'm millimeters from screaming at him in complete sentences of total profanity, and I have an out for once. Get frosty, right? He is looking for a fight. Everyone in the room is looking shocked as if we are continuing a conversation we've never had. But after a couple of seconds, and as cold as I can say it, I said, "Do you need to be dropped off at the funeral home?" And he looks confused. And I said, "It's going to take you an hour and a half by bus. I live 10 minutes away from it. I drove today. I can drop you off. You'll be there in 40 minutes. And he cools a bit. And after a couple of seconds, he says, 3:30, front of the building. And I have my reading list. I walk out of the office. I've just lied to him, by the way. I do have a car that day. I don't live anywhere close to this funeral home, but I know where it is. And if getting him there will shut him up and get me out of his head over his panic and his association with whatever he thinks I'm going to do, and maybe get myself out of my head remembering what I went through, it's a worthy payoff. So at 3:30, I pull up in front of this building, and he eventually walks out, gets in the car. It's my parents' car. They are CBC Metro Morning listeners, so we're listening to this incredibly boring drive time, slightly smug DJs talking about something they consider incredibly important about being in Toronto or Canada or something. It's the most boring stuff I can have. And I don't turn the radio off and I say, yeah, half an hour maybe. I take this very long drive along incredibly congested roads into Richmond Hill, Ontario, to a funeral home I've gone to once for a piano teacher. And he doesn't say a word. Every so often, he will kind of look at me, and he will look out the window, and he will take a breath as if he's going to say something, and then he doesn't. But I think after 40 minutes in a car with me, he's realized that I'm not going to do anything other than pray he leaves my car. And we get to the home. It's one of those things where you have to drive through, and I leave him at the front door, park the car, and I say, here you go. And he doesn't even look awake. At one point he said, it's not till 5. And I said, visitation, they'll give you coffee. I have nothing else to say. And he sat there, and every so often he would inhale, and then finally he just opened the door and looked at me, and he nodded, closed the door. And it took me around an hour to drive home. And it was over. All of this weird mix of trauma and confusion and how dare you and no, how dare you over an event that may or may not have happened. One more time, I do not know how this poet died. I just know what we thought at the time. This could all have been for nothing. The next week, he's back in class, I'm in class, barely speaks to me. No one mentions this poet's death. At the end of the class, he does wander by and he says, hey, I needed that ride. I think maybe I should at least stand you a drink. I said, you don't have to. He said, well, no, I'll just pick up a tab. And I said, you don't need to. Like, I don't want to be inconsiderate, but this is not my business. I can barely handle my own business. I don't think I can handle his, and I can't handle his sense of responsibility for me doing what was the least I could do by design, is to maybe help this guy and get him out of my car. And I've never told this story because it doesn't complete anything other than pointing out how incredibly chaotic and crazy that type of a situation is, especially if you deal with a suicide, that you're going to be angry and upset, and it's going to switch and swirl into something that you cannot possibly understand. I think I only want to say it because of that idea one more time. Maybe if I manifest it, maybe if I explain it, if I can at least put down the black and white, at the end of it you can see maybe there's a pattern, maybe there's a reason to remember it, maybe there's something you can pull out of it. I'd like to think completely accidentally I did the right thing for this guy. I got him out. I took him where he had to be, and I never mentioned it again. Maybe it helped him. Maybe in telling the story, someone else might hear it and say, okay, yeah, it's enough to realize that it's terrible. And if once you do that, at least you can put it in a box. And once it's in a box, you can put it away, or you can look at it and say, yeah, that was awful, but it's over. It is over, right? Thank you. I'm not sure if anyone's signed up in the last 8 minutes. Is there anybody else in the book? No?
You guys want to go up? Come on.
Hey, who wants beer? No volunteers? In that case,
What? You're looking for anybody to volunteer?
yeah.
Okay, I got one more story. One more story.
One more story, Brian Terrio.
I took an easy way out earlier on when I was talking about the drinking and driving thing. Okay. I had some friends and they had addiction issues. And a little more than that, anybody that's got friends who are addicts know that addicts kind of end up getting in the business, whether they want to or not. Well, my friends were in the business. So I had driven them to a factory, loft, flop, whatever you want to call it. These people picked up some substances, and they needed to be transported. Well, that's fine, you know. We had moved stuff around in the vehicle before. I mean, it's nothing really anything more complicated than alcohol, right? Well, it was a little bit more than that. It was, let's see, about 40 years if we got pulled over. And they found it. So, special added complication at the time is that my girlfriend, I was very young at the time, but she was even younger, would have been considered a juvenile. and her two friends would have been considered the same. So that would have added a couple of charges on top of that. So we had partaken of some of what we were transporting. And we were flying pretty high. And sure enough, I got pulled over by a ride spot check. And the people in the car were losing their shit. The cop comes up to the window. I put my sunglasses on. I light a cigarette. I roll down the window. The police officer leans in, starts talking to me. Barely understand what he's saying. Put the cigarette back in my mouth. So, don't drink and drive? The cop says, yes, don't drink and drive. All right then. Thanks. I said, is this the first night of this? Are you guys going to be doing this for a long time? He goes, oh, we're just making a blitz the first week, and then after that we're going to cut back to just a couple of spot checks. I said, oh, okay. Well, have a good night. And the cop said, okay, great. Roll up the window, turn to my friends, and they are ashen white. I got a buddy who would have done some very hard time for this. This wasn't his first offense, and he would have been subject to a couple of more charges on top of that. I would have been right beside him, but anyways. And that was the last time I got fucked up and drove. So, for the earlier time, I know it felt a little like it was finished, but this one really stopped me from doing stupid shit like that. So, don't drink and drive.
One more time for Brian and his epilogue. I have a drunk driving story, but I'm not going to tell it tonight. We have reached an end of the evening. If no one else has signed up. Everybody who came out, in and out, thank you very much for being here one more time. There are still drinks, there are still some snacks, there are still some t-shirts. I want to thank everybody who's performed. I want to thank, in particular, Dex and Jake for putting this all together. I want to thank George for coming in on a crutch, Brian for coming up to Toronto, Brandy for returning across the board. The other two people just disappeared. Okay.
Yeah, ghosts.
Do this once a month, and there is also a Reader's Theater event that I'm going to be doing in the last week of November, possibly with the good Mr. Terrio, if he's interested this time around. On a Wednesday, yep. It's a Wednesday, because who goes out on a Wednesday? I think everybody watching this and everybody here should. That's all I got. Thank you for your patience, and good night.